Welcome, 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 everybody. This is another episode of Breath of Life Conversations. And let me be honest, you guys know me. You have been here, you have been listening. You know how much I love to read. And I love every single time I get to have an author be on the podcast. And this is another one. You guys, this is truly a special one because this is an author who, I mean, guys, like I've had just amazing people on here who have decided to bless us with their talent in so many different ways, but to be able to get inside of their minds and in their hearts and like gift us with a piece of work that can actually bring us some sort of peace, joy, teaching is like such a privilege to me. And this particular guest has influenced my life in so many different ways. And it really started before she became an author. But today we get to talk about her book.
I'm so excited. There she
You-
is. Mhm.
Here she is. Which you can find in your local bookstore. This is the Inner Tarot, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Breath of Life Conversations, Miss.
Hello. Thank you for having me. What an intro. I feel honored and I'm so excited for this conversation because, like you mentioned, we've been in each other's lives and worlds for a while, long before the book. So it's exciting to have all that history too.
Yes. So, guys, this is a book that is part instruction manual,
Mhm.
part biography,
Yeah, kind of.
part
Actually, yeah.
memoir,
Yeah.
um, part there's the last part of it, I think I would describe as like her gift to yourself, truly,
Mhm.
because this is not what I expected.
No, I get that a lot. When people read it, they're like, "Hold on. I thought it was a tarot book." And it is, but it's really validating to hear that. I think it's quite a hybrid of a few different things, and it's really meant to create such a personal experience with the cards, which means I had to get very personal too. So,
Yeah. And like you said, we had been number okay, so I should say this. Kate is my teacher, guys. Like
yes.
when it comes to tarot, this is who I learned from.
Mhm.
And when I tell you that the way that she teaches tarot is by and far different than I've ever seen anyone else teach tarot before,
Thank you.
that is an understatement. The way that you've learned who the cards are.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the things that really sticks out for me when I listen to other readers of tarot explain tarot. They do not see the tarot as a story necessarily.
Mhm.
They don't, but they definitely do not see them as people, like
Yeah.
as characters, as essences.
Mhm.
And you do. Every queen is a character. It's a person to you. It's a personality trait. Every king, every knight, the major arcana itself,
Yeah.
it has a protagonist to you, and it's someone who goes through this major life
Mhm.
transformation.
Mhm.
And looking at the minor is just you looking at everybody's day to day, like this individual's day to day
Their to-do
life.
list there, yeah. The problem they're having that day, the conflict, the conversation, yeah, this the daily
Yeah.
grind of what we're moving through. Thank you for saying that. I do look at them as like people, as characters in a story, like you said, but also just like an extension of me too. Like they're a part of me. They're my friends. Like I know that sounds kind of crazy, but they're like not they're a tool that I rely on, but at this point, the deck and I are so intertwined and connected that it just feels like we're like moving about life like two besties, and I love it.
Yes, that's a great way to describe it because as I read, that came through so strongly. This
Thank you.
was just an ability, this is just another conversation.
Mhm.
And it truly took on another a whole other layer when I realized that you were not going to you weren't going to flip on me halfway through with the exercises. So in
Yeah.
addition to being a tarot reader, you also will happily subscribe to the label of psychic
Mhm.
and intuitive conscious writer. And the other aspect of your business is to
Mhm.
have your clients and your students understand and utilize the power of conscious writing.
Yeah.
So there is only, and I checked, I kept track, there is
Did you?
only one exercise in here where you actually need to pull out a tarot deck and
Yeah.
pull
Wow, you're
cards.
right. Oh my
There's
gosh,
only one. And I think it's literally the first exercise has you pulling out cards.
that's hilarious.
The rest of them all have you pulling out a pen and paper
Yep.
and journaling or just constant stream of writing. There's a few where you're just like, I just need you to sit and just write down like what it is that you're feeling, how
Mhm.
it is that you like think about this idea, this concept, whatever it is that the cards are representing or
Yeah.
allowing you to like problem that the cards are allowing you to kind of look into and just sit with it and
Yeah.
just write.
Yeah.
And I I was halfway through the book and I was like, second.
Yes, you checked. I love that you fact checked me like that. Yeah, there's not a lot of tarot spreads because that's not how I read cards either. Like it's like I don't really subscribe to them. I don't like use that every day. I don't have this really formulaic practice. It's like I pull until it feels right and then I sit with the messages that came through. And I think too, like that's why I also added some like somatic practices. There's a couple of things that I describe of like movement-based work and meditation, breath work, because it's like we have to utilize that energy and actually embody it and do something with it because I was kind of tired of, and I say this lovingly, but of all my students being like, yeah, I pulled this card. Now what? Like, what do I do with it? And I'm like, well, that's up to you. Like, you move the energy, you free yourself of it, you express it, you thank it. Maybe you just say like I'm grateful for this, whatever it is, but there's something to like respond with. It's a dialogue between you and the card. So if you ask something of them and they respond, they want your response too. Like it's back and forth. So that's where the journaling really came in and I did not realize I had so few tarot practices, only one.
Yes. But you know what was so phenomenal about it was that you really don't need it and it
No.
shifts you immediately once you realize it
Mhm.
shifts you immediately to recognize how the cards actually help you
Mhm.
because that is what those prompts and journaling sessions all allow you to actually do. And
Yeah.
like you said, even those moments where you're looking and saying you're walking us through a
Mhm.
yoga pose or a breathwork pattern,
Mhm.
being able to bring us back to ourselves instead of leaving it all right there on the table in the spread on the in
Yeah.
relationship to the car. And that allows us as the reader, as the
Mhm.
person being read, to remember that we're living real life
Yeah. I love that. We're living
and
real life.
not get caught up in the mess.
Yeah.
Even when it's what somebody would stereotypically call a bad draw, right?
Yeah.
There's so many people who say, yep, there's these quote unquote bad cards in the deck. And that was something that drew me to you as a student when I was just kind of looking at your content, seeing number one, really, if you were going to be the right teacher for me,
Mhm.
because I didn't want to work with anyone. I didn't want to learn the cards from anyone who felt like there were negative things
Yeah.
about the deck. It really bugged me to see reader after reader or teacher after teacher being like, if you pull the death card, like doomsday. If you pull the Tower
Totally.
card, doomsday.
It's
If
like,
you
come
if
on.
you
How about
pull
and well,
even one card in the swords.
sometimes I say that to people too who are really anxious. I'm like, how many doomsdays have you really had in your life? Like, have we had hard days 100%? And can I think of a couple days where I'm like, that sucked. That was really hard. That was one of the hardest days of my life. But luckily, they're not every day. Like, so for how
Yeah.
often we're pulling those cards, you have to realize there's something internal going on. Um, and the thing is too, thank you again for validating like my feelings about these cards is like they are definitely here to support us first and foremost, always. And they're meant to be a resource to us. They are not, free will is always at play. So the energy you bring to a reading is the same energy you're going to receive from the deck. And I think like also energy likes to close a loop. It doesn't like to just be open and vast and like just sitting there. So when you have a tarot spread and you kind of don't set yourself up for some sort of like accountability or action, what you did through this divination work is you just stirred up a lot of energy and gave it nowhere to go. And energy with nowhere to go can manifest into some of these anxieties, can manifest into and become some of these worries and these uncomfortable feelings we're talking about. So it's like set yourself up for the grounded experience and you're going to really love it. You're going to be not afraid of it at all.
Yes. It's really interesting that you mentioned that because that's really how I see
Mhm.
the book in and of itself. Like you
Mhm.
don't leave us hanging with a bunch of leftover energy and nowhere to go with it. The book truly does end with this feeling of okay, I've just completed this journey. However, like
Mhm.
you said, life is a cycle. The energy likes to end in these loops, but just as it closes off, there is this state of new beginning, which I think is really hard to pull off as
Yeah.
an author. I think that's why we have nowadays so many authors that are like, I'll make a series.
Yeah.
I don't
I
have to
know.
close it.
People have asked me, they're like, so what's next? A journal of it? I'm like, the journal's in there. Like, it's like 4 books in one. So that is it. That is the resource. That's the guide. And it's funny because I've been doing, podcast interviews and things like that for the book, which obviously I'm obsessed with doing and I love doing. But I feel like as soon as that book, talk about energetic like change and shift and cycles, as soon as the book hit shelves, I felt something really change in me personally. And my desire to talk about tarot so much kind of lessened, not because it's not still like a piece of me, a part of my heart. It's just different now, like the book literally closed a chapter in many ways. So for anyone who's listening, like we're talking a little bit about my courses and previous things I used to teach. And I haven't really offered them recently because everything is in this book. So I do teach the cards. There's a ton of practices like Abigail's mentioning. But there's also like actual tarot learning. So it's everything you need in one, if I do say so myself. And
Yes.
yeah, it's funny that like, life mimics art in that way. I created this book. I'm proud of it, but because it feels so complete, I've noticed how that's translating to my own experience with like my teaching. And that's really been funny and kind of like an identity crisis in its own way. I'm like, well, who the hell am I without tarot? I'm the tarot girl. But we'll see, we'll see how it looks.
And it's interesting too because it does if your energy already knew that this was going to be the case because well prior to the book being even complete, I
Mhm.
remember you still writing it and you making really big moves within your business
Mhm.
as a tarot reader. Not saying that aren't still taking clients. I know that you
Yeah.
still do in limited form your calendar. But your calendar has shifted as far
Mhm.
as like what it is that you're offering. And you mentioned it that your courses, um, don't get me wrong, the minute that you decide that you're going to teach level two
You'll be
of
there.
it, I will be I'll be there. But I also hear what you're saying though of I personally don't pull cards in any form every single day.
Mhm.
I know that there are definitely people who are on that journey of it, but
Yeah.
truly, I wish you could see it. Like just immediately to my left is my, like what I call my plant and card stand. And
I
literally
love
I've
that.
got like 30 some decks, many of which are versions of tarot and um And I don't, I mean, they're there. They're
Mm.
there and I can feel their support, but I do not feel at this point in my journey as an intuitive, as a reader, as a healer, that I need to go to them to help to
Yeah.
answer every single question.
Yep.
But what I found after reading the Inner Tarot was that I understand the cards in a way that I don't necessarily need to
To
go
use
to
them
them
every day.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like I need necessarily further instruction. I feel like I would go to that class
Mhm.
because I wanted to be in your energy, right? I wanted to learn
Mhm.
from you. Would want to have those dialogues with you and with other students instead of necessarily going with this idea that I needed to somehow get better at
Yeah. Oh,
understanding
that
the
makes me
cards.
so happy. I say that all the time. I'm like, if you are entering this practice wanting to be a good reader, you're screwed because it's not about that. It's really not. It's constantly evolving, and inevitably you will get stronger or better or more trusting of your tarot pulse. Like I was even thinking about that in the shower because that's when I think. The other day I was like, my readings are really different than they used to be. Like the majority of my work now is one-on-one sessions and readings, and they do feel so different than they did even a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they're strengthening. But I've never once been like, I have to get better at this. I have to be better at reading these cards. And it's because they, again, are an extension of your comfort within yourself and your trust within yourself. That's how accurate they become. So yeah, it's like the whole teaching this practice has always been really complicated to me because we deserve mentors and spaces to explore things that we enjoy. I fully agree with that. But teaching it like textbook style, it's not University of Tarot.
Mm-mm.
It's just not. So it's like with that in mind, what is that space really serving? Is that actually hindering your growth and trust in yourself? And I think the book, it became clear to me that that was like the perfect in between. It's a very, very like solid resource, but it allows me to not take you out of your natural experience as a tarot reader.
Yes. You mentioned University of Terra, and this is something I really truly like wanted to get your thoughts on because I've
Yeah.
listened to other podcasts that you've been on, and you
Yeah.
have made the comment in the past of how you don't feel like intuition in general should
Mhm.
be something that we have a like set standard uh
Yeah.
institution for.
Hmm.
And I remember hearing it the first time and being like, oh God, I'm thinking like, but I have seen so many readers that like just are either borderline dangerous because of how that they're delivering readings and how they're influencing people, and but also very much understanding what you mean of like as soon as you get a formulaic way of doing it, that cuts off people's ability to be creative.
Hmm.
It stops people from trusting their own intuition because as soon as you're like, well, this is how you do it, and this is how you're supposed to, this is what things mean,
Hmm.
all of a sudden you're that one size fits all
Yeah.
really messes things up. I mean, we're seeing systems breaking now, and I
Yeah.
think part of the reason for that is because those systems don't work. And if you're
Yeah.
starting to say, well, there's only one way to do things,
Hmm.
eventually the world is going to say, well, that actually can't be, so we're going to break it.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a whole podcast episode. I have so many thoughts. I have so many opinions on it. The first thing is like, an unethical reader, whether trained or not, is going to bring that energy and not have integrity in their readings. That's a personal responsibility to show up and handle those containers well and safely, period. So if someone has that kind of icky desire to manipulate or control an experience or feel like they are in that position of power, that's going to translate to probably anything they do, whether it's an intuitive healing or not. That's ego. So that's running rampant in every single industry. However, I think with certifications, the fine line for me is like if it brings you comfort to feel like you went through some sort of like proper class, of course, but it's important to remember that these practices were never meant to be taught and passed down this way. It was very much like a lineage, a feeling of here, I am a reader, I'm passing it on to you, this knowledge, because you're drawn to it and you feel like it's really sacred. It's not because it's cool on Instagram. So
Mm.
I think that's the biggest difference here is just remembering the origin of like where practices like tarot really started and the intention for it. Even something like, when I was getting yoga teacher trained, which I have like done multiple of those, I remember like rolling my eyes because I'd have to get like Yoga Alliance, da, da, da. That was never a thing. But now for like the safety of yoga studios, I get it, like the
Mhm.
legalities of it. But with tarot, I was like, no, like this can't be that style or that verbiage because it makes the teacher student seat feel really different and we're really sitting beside each other.
Yes. So you um as you were just speaking there, something hit me too of this idea of being able to come into the space in integrity.
Yep.
And I have found so often as I've heard other people come to me, like I truly believe that people find me when they're supposed to. So I
Yeah.
don't worry too much about being big enough. You know, I just
Yeah.
like people will find me when they're meant to find me, and they're going to find me at every stage. But what I hear most often is people saying, "Oh, I went through all of these like bad healers, readers, whatever." And I'm always like, and that brought you to a particular space
Hmm.
in your life, a particular obstacle, a particular choice. And so it's so interesting for me to be like, and I can't, while I completely agree with everything that you just said too,
Hmm.
of like it's a personal responsibility. If you're going to be in this work, I absolutely want readers, healers, whatever, to come with that integrity. It really
Yeah.
hurts my heart when I see that they don't, but I also understand that those individuals are necessary in like the wheel of life
Yeah. Yeah.
to draw, the people to a space where they're actually not afraid to look at themselves in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
sorry, I'm
no,
getting
it's okay.
excited.
No, no, no. Yes, no, please go. Yes.
I just feel like too, like, we're labeling it as something that wouldn't work for us, but for some people, certain energies and wake up calls are necessary. And I feel like that's what you're saying too, is like a bad reader to us, we're labeling to those listening maybe too definitively, but someone who's not really our style could be someone else's style at a certain point in their journey. But then we grow from that and we realize, wait, hold on. I don't know if I love the way that was handled, but man, did I learn a lot about myself through that.
Yes. Yes. So I want to kind of not backtrack a little bit. It's a more of an extension to what we're saying of like where you are personally, because
Mhm.
you've had so many shifts in your life in just this past year. You got
I
married.
did.
You delivered a baby,
A
as in the
baby.
book.
I know. It's like, oh my God, I did the book tour. That was like a whole thing. Yeah, it was a big year for sure. A very big year. Um, Really, it feels like it's been like 2 years because the book started about, well, 2.5 now, started about 2.5 years ago. So it's like this whole process has been long, but really great. And it's just been a blur sometimes, but also I've been really present other times. I feel like I keep trying to pull myself back into it. And now we're sort of sitting in the aftermath of it all, and it feels nice. It feels really nice.
With everything that has gone on in your world, I
Mhm.
don't want to ask you that question of like what's next, but what is more interesting to me is how are you coping in this
Mm.
aftermath of it, and as the hurricane passes,
I
right?
so
Like
appreciate that. I so
you're no
appreciate
longer in the
that.
eye.
It's like, yeah, it's how it
Yeah.
feels. And you're right, like that question was almost immediate when I put the book out. Well, will you write another one? Is there a deck coming? This and that. And it's like it is coming from a place of excitement. But it can be also kind of invalidating, and whether it's a book or not, I know so many women I work with and people in general who just, they go through one milestone and then it's like, well, what's next? You get engaged, when's the wedding? You get married, when's the kid? It's like, calm down. Time is just really sacred and so special. And it's like, we're always rushing, rushing, rushing. Even in my readings, like I catch myself telling people all the time, like, you have plenty of time. Like these dreams and these goals, sure, maybe they're not going to happen in the next 6 months. That doesn't mean it's a failure, like it's still coming. But so to answer your question, I've been feeling good. I think it was really uncomfortable the first couple months after my book. And after the book tour, I'll be honest, you get a lot of attention. You have people really excited. You're like the shiny new thing. And then suddenly you're not. And everyone's like, okay, cool.
Mm,
Like the book's great. Thank you. And it's over. So it's kind of like that aftermath. And I think that for a minute I panicked because I was like going through this like push-pull of like a part of me has nothing left to create for tarot. Like if you asked me right now to like outline a workshop, I could do it, but I would feel like I'm just kind of like regurgitating the same things. Like I don't have anything new. And I was craving that creative spark and it wasn't coming at first. So I took some time off social media. I focused more on my marriage and preparing for that. I channeled it into that. And eventually the creativity came back. And I've been really lit up by my mentorship clients again, by working, in my readings in a very different way and just feeling like we're really getting to that like that beautiful, juicy, like action based, like how do we fix and heal and move forward? How do we shift out of all the reflection and all of the curiosity of being intuitive and being spiritual and actually like living that life? Which means I had to do that too. I had to like regulate my nervous system again because it was maxed out. I was burnt out and I had to accept that. And as anyone would be after like doing what I did, I think, I had to give myself that grace, but I was severely burnt out and it needed to like totally replenish before I could even get back to this place now.
yes. One of the things that I absolutely love about your company is the idea of the in.
Hmm.
Anything that we see, the logo or the thing that really sets it apart as a Kate Van Horn healing space is this, as and you can see it behind you even,
Yeah.
is the inner and or the in. And so everything
Hmm.
about it about what you do really truly is this idea of, what I get that the world's out there and I get that this, this affects you,
Yeah.
but please, for the sake of yourself and your mind and your
Hmm.
spirit and your soul, like come
Yeah.
back in and find where you can be truly having a real experience instead of like focusing so much on the next,
Yep.
really. And I think that was where it reminds me of when I was saying how it's as if your energy already knew before the book was even done that there was going to be things that you needed to have in your space that really would help you to do that. And I remember when you got really interested in feng shui
Yeah.
and really started saying, yeah, I'm the author of the Inner Tarot, which is coming soon. I like vividly remember
Yeah.
that hearing that switch in your social media where you were like, I'm a psychic, I'm a tarot reader, author of the Inner Tarot, which is coming soon, but I'm also into I'm
But I also really love homes and design and interiors and spaces. And I do, and I've always loved that. And it's like the thing about, it's all the same though, right? Like it's all just energy. It's all just noticing where energy is going, noticing where it's placed, noticing how it affects us. Like every choice we make from like the first meal we have to the time we go to bed, it's all intuitive if we allow it to be. Like it's all intuitive if we just get in that mindset of like, I am living my life from a place of authenticity, of joy, of surrender. It becomes a really intuitive experience. So for me, like homes were always something I wanted to do and work in. And I think it's no coincidence that my husband is an architect who's deeply like inspired by design. Obviously, it's like his greatest joy is looking at spaces. And through our years together, I've been learning how to observe from that place. Like I'm witnessing the way he does it and I'm like, "Oh, cool. This is how I view it." You know, this is what I pick up on when I go into a space or into a new restaurant or whatever. And I did. I started to like dabble it in and I think a part of me like my book agent was probably like, what are you doing? Like this is not the topic we're supposed to be talking about. My editors were probably like, what the hell is she talking about? But it felt right, it felt good, and I now today like do read homes with my clients, and I've done some feng shui consultations and things like that. And while it isn't like replacing tarot or psychic work, it's just another way of me using my gifts, I guess.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
love it.
And and so necessary. I would not be surprised if with the knowledge that you have of spaces, places, and people, and really backed by your understanding of tarot and the
Yeah.
different situations that people understand and go through, um, that things like, biogeometry doesn't end up like entering into your life in some
I
way.
could see
Like
that.
I
I could see
think.
it. I need there's so much I want to learn too. That's the thing. And like that's the shitty part about burnout. It's like when you're in it, you can see all the things. You're like, that would be amazing if I could even get myself to do it, you know? And it's like I'm trying to
Yes.
just know it's gonna come naturally. But I think one of the things really lighting me up right now is like retreats as well. That's something that
Mhm.
I've added back. I've taught retreats, but I took a break for the book and the book tour. So bringing those back and like curating these really beautiful spaces for people to feel safe enough to do some of this healing work together and get vulnerable together. Retreats have always been the thing. I write about it in the conclusion of the Inner Tarot. It's like the thing where I just feel the most joy and I feel the most impact, even though it's the smallest group of people I could connect with. It's like micro compared to like social or a webinar, blah, 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 podcast. And those platforms are great, but retreats are really where it's at for me because I can extend this like appreciation and this presence and this love for intuitive living across every decision we make that day. And it really drops people in. And
Yes. Yes, exactly. And I think right now, looking at how the energy of the world is going right now, it's something we desperately, desperately need.
yeah,
Spaces, places where we don't have to feel afraid
yeah,
of what we may encounter in those groups. And I think even with retreats, I mean, I think about people like the Tony Robbins, of the world, where I'm like, or the Joe Dispenzas of the world, where it's like
totally.
there are thousands of people, they're filling auditoriums and stadiums and these large gathering spaces. And I mean, I think I personally am not in a space, and I don't know if I ever would be. Like I think too about like how I want to run spaces.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That
I
much
can't
access to your
imagine,
energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or feeling like I could successfully hold
Hmm.
that much energy
Yeah.
and be able to bring people to a place of inner awareness
Hmm.
and healing within themselves by not without being able to like physically move it
Yeah.
inside of a group of people. So yeah, I
I know
mean,
what you mean. It's a lot. It's
it's a
interesting
lot.
to observe too those who like do hold really truly collective large communities and spaces. And it's like I try to be mindful with the way I talk to myself about this because I'm like on one hand, I don't want to say that I could never do it because I used to think
Right.
like and because, I don't want to limit myself in that way, but it definitely feels like something my nervous system would not be able to handle right now. And I am positive of that. And maybe we'll get to that place. And I look forward to it. But I also am like really okay, at least in this moment, um, maintaining smaller spaces. And it took me a while because I've had some people like, business coaches and people who like kind of challenge that a little and say, like, are you limiting your expansion or your growth? And I'm like, no, I'm actually like creating like the safest business for me. Like this feels so good. Like I wake up with no anxiety, no stress, spaciousness in my day, and that's a privilege. And I want to maintain it and I want to continue. And I am of greater impact, I think, maybe to my clients because of how I feel and because of how I show up. So it's like, I don't know. It's hard because these spaces and these groups are really, really impactful and really profound. And I think the people meant to lead them will safely and correctly. But there's something to be said about, if you are listening and you identify as a healer, you identify as someone who wants to hold space, any form of space is important space to hold. Doesn't need to be a stadium. It does not.
Yes.
It's really beautiful, no matter what like scale you're doing this work. And I always say too, like if we are helping and healing individuals or helping them to heal themselves, I should say, one on one or one by one, that is part of a collective change and a collective shift because we show up differently when we're working through these things. And that's, I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but
No, no, what everything that you're saying though makes so much sense, especially when we're thinking about, where are people needing their energy to be focused?
Mhm.
And right now, there's so much focus around this big collective energy of
Mm.
the world, really. And I think it's such a weird thing that,
Yeah.
if you live in America, every 4 years and when we have a presidential election, all of a sudden
Mhm.
it is, even though it's something that only is really supposed to like affect us, like nowhere
Yeah.
else in the world do we pay
Mhm.
such close attention
Yeah.
globally as a society to what leader is going to step into the space and how
Mhm.
much the world holds its breath. I mean, nobody
Mhm.
cares about who, you know,
Yeah.
is going to be the leader of Canada or the leader of France or the leader
Mhm.
of Australia, right? I mean,
That,
not on the same platform, right? And this
yeah.
isn't us just being like arrogant Americans. It's true. Like
Yeah.
the number
It's
of
a fishbowl kind of. Yeah.
yes.
Mm.
And so, especially now we're in such a flux of movement where it's very easy to get
Mm.
caught up in this like outward
Yeah.
uh tension, right? And when I think of the spaces that are going to be the most healing and impactful, especially during this particular moment in our history,
Mhm.
it is going to be those places where you could sit down and just have a cup of tea and talk about, what's going on in your world.
Yeah, it's getting us out of this bigness, this massive, energy. And I think that it has been really interesting to see even the dialogue of like online of people being like, find your community, like go off grid. People are really getting this like pretty extreme too version of like, I want to completely remove myself. And while that's not my path, right now or probably ever, I get it. Like I get the desire to be just completely removed because it has gotten so exhausting to keep up in many ways. And I think that's where, I said it at the beginning of the year, my big thing, like from collective readings, from reading my clients, noticing trends, every year, similar to the cycle of the election, like every January 1, we want to know what's this year going to be like. And 2024 was all about regulating our systems, regulating our nervous system, because we reach a threshold for how much we can compute, you know? And we're really reaching our max, I think. And we're seeing the effects of that. And we're noticing what we do have control over. And that's the autonomy of our bodies, our minds, what we say, how we speak to ourselves, how we love ourselves. We do have control of that. So it's like this concept of going inward might feel kind of like simple. But when I try to present these ideas to clients, it feels really freeing because they can actually do something about it.
Yeah. Have you looked at, in terms of like your own like practice with the cards, have you kind of felt into the energy for 2025? If like 2024 was about regulating, do you already have like
Yeah.
a sense for what that
I
energy is going to look like for 2025?
I think there's going to be like a lot of cultivation, like a lot of like reaping the benefits of what we've, the harvest. That doesn't have to be abundance. That doesn't have to, I just pulled the Eight of Pentacles. That doesn't have to be money, but really seeing the reward for the effort, really starting to see things come to the surface and collect around us. So that could be community and really solid friendships. That could be, relationships that are just in flow, businesses that finally work because we were finally being honest about what it was supposed to be, not what we thought it had to look like. Just things feeling way more authentic and therefore more abundant,
Oh, I love that. I
right?
love it. It's such a great place to know that we're in a point in the cycle or in the loop where the hardness of it. I think we hear that a lot now of just what we're going through this hard transition period, this
Hmm.
building, this breaking, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I truly honestly am just very happy to hear that ultimately, the whether it's on a collective grid or on a very personal one, like the work that we've done is going to pay off for us.
Yeah, it's gonna pay off. And
And
I think too, it's also about like, the authentic intention behind the work. So like the human experience is work. Like that's why we're here. Like we're here to do something and we got to work a little bit. So like whether that's, literally or just the effort of showing up and going through the day to day, like it's a labor. And I think that we're working smarter, not harder. And we're being more intentional with why am I doing this in the first place? Like, am I doing it to prove something? Am I doing it like what are my values here? And when you align your values with the effort you're putting, behind them, they're going to grow, they're going to look the best. They're going to grow the best. They're going to feel the best when it's all feeling congruent. So I think we all needed to like almost step back, pull back, reframe, realign. And now I do feel like it's going to be a lot more authentic.
beautiful. Okay, I could talk to you for literally ever.
Days.
And ask so many like different questions. I am just so privileged to have met you and to have worked with
I
you
feel the
and to be
same.
taught by you. Thank you so much for being here. Guys, this is going to be one of those episodes that I do not have a part two, because I think we just as all things with Kate, as you will find, they come to a natural conclusion just very nicely, and really coalesce into a space where you don't feel the need to have to struggle through it. I
Yeah.
just really believe that when you are authentically yourself and you can find this space where you do not feel the need to have to make some sort of a big grand claim. Like that sounds so odd. I
I'm not going to change
promise.
your life, Like I don't know. Maybe, but maybe not. And that's the
You
beauty of it.
will, and you do. You do. You change people's lives every day. But it's your energy, I feel like, is just such a blessing to so many people who, they're they want these huge changes in this, rock your world, but you do it in such a quiet way, and it's so appreciated, especially in a world that's just so noisy.
Yeah.
And so I thank you so much for
If
like
I ever am feeling low, I'm just going to shoot you a text and be like, Abigail, I need a little hype up because thank you. The way I mean, it goes to show how intuitive and aligned you are because the way you're able to see people, like everything you've said in this episode has made me feel really, really seen and like for who I really authentically try to be. So thank you. And it's like obviously I knew that we trusted each other having worked together, but this conversation really makes me feel really good. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
oh,
You're deeply in
absolutely.
alignment as well, and these conversations are important.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Kate, where can people find you? Where can they work with
Yeah.
you at this space of your life?
KateVanHorn.com has everything. And then the Inner Tarot can be found on Amazon, everywhere books are sold. And you can find me on Instagram, Kate Van Horn.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I am just infinitely grateful for everybody
Me too.
who has continued to listen and to be a part of these conversations and to help move them forward. Please don't forget to like, a comment, subscribe, and share this with anyone you feel like needs this
Yes.
particular conversation. And I am sure that Kate will be back. So
I love
will
that.
I do not promise near in the future, because I know that Kate has things in her world and stuff, but we will keep our eyes and ears open, and who knows, maybe you guys will be following me on a journey for her next retreat or
I
something.
would love
But
that. I would love that. Thank you, Abigail.
bye everyone. We will see you next time on the next Breath of Life conversation.